Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining this afternoon's webinar. This afternoon, we're going to be talking about defining your why in tech. So, for those of you who are in attendance or who might be watching the recording of this video, um, this video is really for those of you who are transitioning into technology. There's a lot of people who are interested in getting involved in the tech space. People are coming from healthcare, people are coming from real estate, people are coming from customer service. All these different domains are migrating and hoping to find a job in technology. And so that can be very, very, very overwhelming, especially for those who are new to tech, who may not necessarily understand the lingo or know where to begin or where to start. It can feel really intense. And so that's why I wanted to put together tonight's webinars for those individuals who might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed. They may not know what the next step should be or how to begin. And so the defining your why in tech webinar is to kind of get you thinking about why you're interested in technology, first off, and then help guide you into how your skills from your existing jobs might overlap into a field in technology, and then also the challenges that might come up with choosing specific jobs. And so we're going to go over some models, we're going to go over some different techniques, we're going to go over some different things that you can use to kind of get that clarity that you need to get started. And so this can be a collaborative space. If you have any questions, just pop them into the question box here on Crowdcast. You can also feel free to chat in the chat box as I give the presentation. I'll be more than happy to respond to you or answer any questions during the stream. Besides that, we'll just be diving right in today. So what I'm going to be doing is going through a PowerPoint document. So let me focus that on the screen, and let's get started. So why am I here giving this talk? Why do I feel like I have some insight to share into this? Well, because I have been working in technology for about 13 years. My name is Corey Kelly. I work as an enterprise architect currently at a credit card company. I've worked as a software developer. I've worked as a quality assurance engineer. I've worked as a software developer manager. I've developed mobile applications and eventually ended in solutions architecture as an enterprise architect. So all of that to say that I have experienced and worn a lot of different hats in technology. I've experienced a lot of the softer skills that come into play to make you successful in tech. And I really want to kind of share and guide those who are also interested in making that transition. So not only have I been working in tech for 13 years, I also just have a really strong passion for communication, vulnerability, honesty, showing up as human. And that passion for me, which is something I haven't seen a lot of in tech, is people showing up and really embracing the more human side of things, led me to get my transformational life coaching diploma. And so I am a technologist and a life coach. And that is why I believe I can bring a really interesting and unique view into this space to help guide you on your journey into technology through the lens of someone who's been there and also through the lens of someone who has extensive training in coaching and creating and holding that coaching space for my clients. So that's a little bit about me. Mindful Bit is the coaching company that I founded. There's also a Facebook group called Transitioning into Tech that I have. It's currently at around 1,800 members. And this is a safe space for individuals who are thinking about transitioning into technology, but are suffering from doubt and lacking motivation and just aren't really sure where to get started. And so this space doesn't necessarily focus on the super technical. I'm not really concerned with answering questions on how to code X, Y, and Z or how to design certain systems. Those are all very, very, very specific things that you will learn. I'm more interested in the higher level of, do you have clarity around the goals that you're trying to accomplish? Do you know where you're headed? Are you confident in the direction you're going? Are you spending your time working on the right things? Have you set goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic? And so all of these really high level things I focus on. And defining your why just so happens to be one of those areas. So that's enough about me. Let's get into the meat of defining your why. Defining your why in tech is all about getting clarity around your current reality. Why do you want to move into technology? This why is something that should really drive and motivate your entire journey into technology. I always encourage all of my clients and those that I work with to write down their why, print it out, frame it, put it on a piece of paper, and put it on your office desk so that you can see it every day, so that you can really, let that why saturate and guide you and be present on a daily basis because it's important. On those days where you want to give up, on those days that you're suffering from imposter syndrome, on those days that you're really struggling to write code, you're going to want to look at that why and remember why you got started because it is a journey into technology. It's not something, contrary to the popular opinion, that you can just get into overnight. A lot of TikTok and these other technologies are telling a story that, oh, you want to move into tech, you can do it in a month and get six figures. And that's honestly not the reality of it. I wholeheartedly believe that you can transition into technology and you can transition in a lot of different ways. You don't necessarily need to get a bachelor's degree. There are so many different ways to get into tech, but you do have to have psychological capital, and that is self-efficacy. You need to be optimistic, you need to have hope, and you need to be resilient. And having your why clearly defined is going to help you really lean in to um, that psychological capital. So, what you need to do is think about defining your why. What is your clarity? What's driving you towards technology? What are the must haves of that career? What are the skills that are necessary? How do your current skills stack up? And what does the transition difficulty look like? And you might be thinking, well, Corey, I don't know any of that yet. I'm brand new to technology and I don't know these things. And I will help to continue to guide you on that journey. So, the first thing I do when I work with my clients on this defining your why package, right? So this is going to be an overview of the models and techniques I do with my clients so that hopefully you can take these models and do them on your own. But I do offer coaching packages where I walk through these models with my clients to help gain clarity. So if this is something that you feel like might be interesting for you to do with a coach and a mentor to help guide you through these things, keep that in mind. That is an option for you. But the one of the most important things we do initially is define your life will. And this is where we go in these big sweeping areas of your life and we rate them on a scale between 0 and 10. And you might be looking at these, you'll see passion for work, challenged by my work, which are work related, but you'll also see stuff on here like spiritual health, friendships, fun and recreation. And you might be thinking, well, Corey, these aren't related at all to technology. Why are we spending time focusing on these areas of my life? This isn't tech. But I'm trying to encourage you to have a more holistic view of where you're at so that you can gain a lot of clarity about where you're going. And so what happens a lot of times is as we discuss these different areas of life and my clients give these ratings, they'll have aha moments where they realize, oh, actually, my score, I only gave family a 3. And so I'm really looking for a job that'll allow me to get my family up to a 7, 8, 9, or 10. And that means I'll need a job that really prioritizes work-life balance. Or I might have a client that says, oh, um, my stress level's at a 10 right now. I want a job that really is going to focus on getting that stress level down. I do want to get into tech, but I don't want to be stressed all the time. And so that's really insightful because that means you probably don't want to work at a startup where the work life balance is a little bit uh, unhealthy in ways, and it can be. But there's a lot of different insights that can happen on this life wheel. And so what you do is you go through each one of these and you rate them for yourself. And then at the end, you end up with a diagram that kind of represents overall where you stand, and you can kind of see the different relationships and kind of think about, okay, why am I getting into tech? What is really driving this? It could be spending health. Maybe you're looking to make more money. Maybe you want to get your financial status up a bit higher. Um, or it could be, really to allow you to have more time to pursue your passions. So the Life Wheel is a great place to get started. If you don't know where to get started in tech, this is an encouragement and a gentle recommendation to just take a step back. Don't get so hyper focused on technology just yet. Take a more holistic view of your life as the very first step so that you can ensure that technology truly is the way that you want to go. I'm not trying to talk you out of technology. I think technology is great. I think that you can succeed and make the transition. But this is all about taking stock of what the current reality is and making sure that a migration into technology is actually what you need, is actually what will be good for you, is actually what will get you where you need to be. And once you are convinced that, yeah, technology is going to actually get me these things, you can use this life wheel to help set and define the criteria that will be used to choose that dream job. Okay. The next thing I do with my clients after we define their life wheel and get a really clear understanding of what their current reality looks like is we define what I call the four pillars. These are the four major aspects of a career. And this, once again, is just going to help you get a finer clarity around the job that you want to have. A lot of people get into tech and they just think, I'll take whatever I can get because I really want to get into technology. And those people are typically the ones that don't necessarily succeed because there's a certain amount of thoughtfulness that needs to go into this career transition. And you need to make sure that you're thinking about what would work for you and not necessarily just what's going to work for the company. So when you define your four pillars, it's a way to talk about your passion. What are you super passionate about? What gets you up in the morning? What lights a fire under you and really helps to motivate you to work? We also look at your strengths. What are you really, really good at? What do you already know? What are some skills that you already bring to the table? What makes your story unique? What makes the way you work really unique? What are those strengths that you already have that are going to help bolster you in this new position? And obviously, you can use the four pillars as a way to talk about previous strengths, but you will be learning new skills in new environments. But this is just a way to think about the existing skills that you have and how those strengths can help you land a new job. The third thing is your work environment. You really want to put some thought into this as you're defining your four pillars. What do you want out of a work environment? Right? Does it need to be remote? Does it need to support maybe a few days in the office? Is there certain um, is there certain values that you really want represented in your company? Do you want your company to um, really support people who might be struggling or suffering? And so really think about your work environment. And once again, this is just a way to help you define what you're looking for because I don't want you to try to fit yourself into a job description. I want you to be the one who's putting thought into what you want so that you can go find things that match as opposed to the other way around. And that's super, super important when it comes to the work environment. Now, compensation is the last thing you need to think about. It is fine for you to think about compensation. A lot of people that I coach who come into tech, they just have the mindset that they'll take whatever they can get just so they can make the transition. But it is something you should be thoughtful about. You should have boundaries. You should realize that maybe you are coming into a position with a little less experience, so you might not come in making what someone with 5 years of experience would make, but you still want to have a general idea of what you want to be making at a company. And also, what does that growth look like? So not just what you're going to make coming in, not just what are the benefits coming in, but what is that going to look like over the course of my career in technology? How is that compensation? Is it just, and a lot of companies have compensation packages. It's not just a flat rate. They'll do a base salary, and they'll do a percentage of that base salary that is a yearly bonus, and then they might offer 401k, and then stock benefits. So the compensation packages in tech can typically get a little complicated, but just put some thought into that, define those four pillars, just so you'll have some clarity around that. So previously we talked about the life wheel. So if you go through that exercise, you'll know what your current reality is, what things you might want to improve, how a new job will fit into your overall life. Um, and then with the four pillars, you have a little bit more of an idea of, okay, this is what I'm actually looking for in a job. This one's more job specific. So these are, once again, just two different models that you can use to gain more clarity around your transition and help to define that why a bit better. And so the next question that I get all the time for people who are transitioning is, how do I know, number one, what I need to study? Number two, how do I know what positions are out there? And number three, how do I know which of my skills translate? And that happens all the time. That's pretty much the main issue that comes up. It's a lot of feeling of overwhelm from people who want to transition because there is so much out there. The lingo is different for different companies, and so a software developer at Netflix might look completely different than a software developer at Facebook, which might then again look completely different than a software developer at Instagram. And so the technique that I like to use is I like to work backwards. I tell my clients that I want you to go out there and I want you to choose 3 to 5 companies that are in alignment with your four pillars, that match up with your values, and then out of those 3 to 5 companies, choose 1 to 3 job titles that are really interesting to you. And this is a way to kind of work backwards. This gives us a nice starting point to find out what technologies are actually in demand, because everyone has an opinion, right? Everyone's going to tell you, "Oh, this programming language is better," or "Oh, this position is going to have more value." But it's all subjective, honestly. So what I like to do is I like to tell people, let reality tell you what has the most value. Let reality dictate the choices that you're making. Don't just listen to somebody because they have advice. Go out and find on your own. And one of the ways to do that is go look at these job recommendations. Go look at these job descriptions that are out there. Choose 1 to 3 titles that look interesting to you. And those titles will have the recommended technologies that you would need to learn and the skill sets that are expected. And so, like I said, each company could have vastly different recommendations or technologies. A backend developer at Facebook might be using Java, whereas a backend developer at Twitter might be using C++. And so there's different flavors of every single tech job out there. There's no cookie cutter position. And the best way to figure out where the skills gap is to use this methodology. And it just requires a little research up front. And a lot of people, this is where they get stuck because they don't know where to go. And so instead of trying to guess what these companies want and trying to learn every single technology that's out there, this is a way to get really super hyper focused on companies that you want to work for, and then tailoring your unique journey to those companies and to those requirements. And it's typically one of the quickest ways that you can develop skills to acquire a position at a specific company. Instead of trying to get good at front end, back end, everything in between, you get really hyper focused on those skills that are necessary. So that's a really great technique to kind of find out what the reality is, what is the market currently supporting, because the job market is a real thing. There's highs and there's lows, and there's skill sets that are in demand sometimes and that aren't in demand other times. So really do some research on those companies. Once you have those companies, the next thing I encourage my clients to do is to drop them into buckets, right? Drop them into, this is a dream job for me, this is an ideal job for me, this is a plan B job for me. And this is a really fascinating opportunity. You might not think any insights will come up from this, but I've seen individuals who have been spending a lot of their time working to learn front end development, for instance. They want to transition into tech, and they're in a front end boot camp. Um, but their dream job is project management. And so as I'm coaching these clients and we notice any inconsistencies between how they're spending their time and what it is that they actually want, that's very easy to do when it comes to technology. It's very easy to get lost and go down these paths and start learning a lot of stuff that just doesn't really translate to where you actually want to be. Because as humans, we really enjoy taking action. We really do. As long as we're doing something, we feel like we're adding value. And I want to encourage you to work, the cliche saying, work smarter, not harder. Make sure that the things that you're doing are actually in alignment with where you want to go. And this is a great way to do that because in the previous example, maybe you chose three different job titles. Maybe you're not set. You don't really know at this stage which one you're really interested in. But as you begin to drop them into buckets, you'll get a higher level understanding of, yeah, I do want to work for Netflix, and I do want to be a back end developer, or yeah, I do want to work for Facebook. I do want to work in DevOps. And then based on that, you can start to get a clearer picture and a clearer understanding of where you need to be spending your time and how you need to be allocating the skills that you're learning. Because technology is vast. There's a ton of stuff to learn. There's a ton of skills out there. There's a ton of boot camps that want to teach you things. And at the end of the day, like I said, it can be very overwhelming. So the defining your why, once again, this whole webinar is just about helping you get clarity on what it is that you want. It's just a really simple question. What do you want? And are you clear about it? Because if you're not clear about it, you will end up in the weeds learning something that isn't important, and that's not actually moving you towards your goal. So the next technique that I recommend and I work with my clients through, who do one-on-one coaching with me, is performing a SWOT analysis. So after this, we have done the life wheel. We know what your current reality is, some areas of your life that you would like to improve. We've done your 4 pillars. We know what your passion is. We know what your strengths are. We know what work environment you're looking for. We know the compensation you're looking for. We've also chosen 3 to 5 companies with 1 to 3 job titles. You drop those into buckets so you know which jobs are your dream job, which jobs are your plan B, and which ones would be ideal. The next thing is to perform a SWOT analysis on each of those positions. And this is where maybe you just choose the ones that are in your dream bucket, but you're going to choose them one by one and you're going to assess, okay, for this job title, what are my strengths? How do my strengths relate specifically to this job that I chose? And you're going to know because you picked a job and you have the description. You have the description, so you know exactly what they're looking for. You know what your history is and what your experience looks like. So now you can write up, what are my strengths in regards to this position? You'll also know, what are my weaknesses? What about this position is something that I might need to work on? What am I weak in regards to this position? And if you're just getting started in tech, that might be the technical aspects of it. That might be learning how to code, learning how to use this software, learning how to use that software. And that's perfectly fine because the main point of this, the main goal is to identify that. What I also want you to think about here is the strengths portion of it, because you might be sitting on so many strengths that you just didn't realize are actually transferable. You might be really surprised and really impressed. If you're already a product owner out in a non-tech field and you're moving into technology, you might find that the majority of those skills that you currently have translate really well. And it might not be that difficult for you to move into tech as a product owner. But this is all about getting really clear about where you currently stand in regards to this position. We're identifying you and this position, and we're trying to identify the gap between it. And so the next thing we look at is opportunities. What are some unique opportunities that you might have in this space? How is your experience unique? How does your story uniquely fit into this role? Is there anything about this and you that makes you an obvious choice for this position? And so it's a way to think about your opportunities in this position. And then the last one is threats. And this is just a way to get really clear. What are potential threats to you landing this role? What could potentially happen between now and the time you got to interview that could be potentially dangerous? Maybe it's the fact that you know that this company might want to fill this position or this recommendation pretty quickly, and so you know that you might not have as much time as other people would to prepare for it because you need to learn a lot of different skills, right? So that's one threat that could happen. Another threat might be that you're just not very good at technical interviews yet, right? That could be a threat to you landing this job. So then you can say, okay, well, what do I need to do to work on this? And this isn't meant to be depressing, to confront where you are and to confront your reality. It's just a way for you to kind of take a look under the hood and say, okay, this is exactly where I'm at. This is exactly what I need to do to move forward. And this is how I'm going to get there. So a lot of people get stuck in the beginning because they're just a little nervous or there's a little bit of fear around taking a hard look at the current reality. Because everyone wants that magic bullet that says, yes, I can get a job in a month in tech making six figures and I don't have to put any work in, or I don't have to learn any new skills, or I don't have to do this, or I don't have to do that. And that's not reality. And those people typically, I mean, every now and then there's probably a unicorn that somehow makes their way into tech um, without actually going through the necessary steps. That's the power of networking. But all in all, you are going to have to put some work in. You are going to have to be very thoughtful about your journey. You are going to have to get really clear about where you're headed so you can stay on track and stay motivated. And the SWOT analysis is what you can do on those jobs that you chose in the last step. So here comes the transition difficulty. This is what you can do. This is a fringe map. This is just a way to visualize what's happening here. But in the previous step, you've identified a SWOT analysis on each of those jobs. So you know where the strengths are, you know the weaknesses, you know the opportunities, and you know the threats. Here's what you also know. You know your four pillars. You know what your expectations are for the work environment. You know what your expectations are for the compensation. You know what your passions are, and you know what your strengths are and how they relate to the job. You also know which ones are your dream job, which ones are ideal, and which ones are just plan B that you don't even really want. And you also have a really strong understanding of where you currently are in life with your life wheel. You know that maybe I want a job where I can spend more time with family. Maybe I want a job where I have a little bit more financial freedom. Maybe I want a job that allows me to pursue my passions outside of work more. Or maybe I want a job that really pushes me and allows me to work 10 hours a day. I mean, if you're in your 20s and you're just getting into tech, maybe you do want to work for a startup where they're constantly pushing you and giving you more work so that you can build up your skills and maybe that's a good time for you to do that. And so it's not up to someone like me or any coach or any advisor or any mentor out there to tell you what's good for you. You really have to put some thought into it and decide, yeah, what is it that makes sense for me. So once you have all that information, you can then think about, okay, how long is it actually going to take me to transition? Is this going to be a simple transition? Do I already have the majority of the skills? Are there very few weaknesses? Do I have a ton of opportunities and very few threats? Okay, that maybe that's a simple transition. A moderate transition. Okay, I've got a lot of the strengths. I've got a few weaknesses. There's some opportunity there and a couple threats, but nothing too wild. Okay. And then you've got your complex transition. I don't really have a lot of the strengths, a lot of the skills that the job requires. A lot of my weaknesses are going to be holding me back from this position. I'm going to have to do a lot of work and take advantage of a lot of opportunities. and then there's a lot of threats. And so maybe that's a complex transition. And I'm not telling you that any one of these is better than the other. Maybe a simple transition is what you're looking for right now because you want to get a job quickly because your life will. Now you have clarity and you know that I need more money and I need it quick for some reason. Okay, maybe that's why a simple transition works for you. Or maybe after you've done your life will, you really want to career growth was important to you. And so a complex transition might be okay for you because you've given yourself a year, which isn't unrealistic. You've given yourself a year to kind of work through, learn the different languages, learn the skills that are missing, really bolster yourself up. And that's a kind of a complex transition there. And so this is what you can do. You can take this and you can drop those jobs into this and kind of get a sense of, okay, is this going to be simple? Is this going to be moderate? Is this going to be complex? And that should help you out there. Okay, so that's kind of a high level. I know this defining your why didn't necessarily take an hour, but I just want to summarize what we talked about because it is a lot of information, and I didn't necessarily walk through these models with you. So let me just go over them each one more time at a high level, so you can kind of see how they all play into one another, and you can take any notes or write anything down that you want to that you might have missed on the first pass through. But what I do with my clients, they'll come to me and they'll say, "Hey, I want to get into tech." I'll say, "Hey, I think you might be interested in my defining your why package, where I walk you through these steps." We have sessions where we go over your life wheel together. We rate those things. But here, I'm just encouraging you to take these as projects of your own, um, some homework for you, and to work on these at your own pace. And like I said, if anyone is interested in exploring a coaching relationship with me, where we kind of go through this stuff together, I'd be more than happy to have that conversation. So once again, this is the Life Wheel. This is a really wonderful tool, and most coaching sessions, even when they aren't in tech, start with this Life Wheel because we really just need to know where you are in life so you can decide what you want to focus on, what you need to work on in order to grow. Is your stress level too high? Would you like to have more time to pursue fun and recreation? And this particular diagram is really nice. What you do is you rate your domain on a scale of 1 to 10, and you put a little dot on this. And so at the end of this, you end up with an assortment of dots around this image that will kind of show you where your current reality is. And I know when I first pursued coaching, I had to go through this myself because I wasn't sure what I needed to work on. I knew that something was off. I knew that something wasn't right, but I didn't know where the problem was or what I needed to fix. It turns out it was a lot of things. Um, Typically, we feel overwhelmed as humans when there's many different things going on, and we feel like we can't quite grasp it. So there's probably a lot of things on here that you'll notice as you fill this out. But the whole purpose of the life wheel is to get you clarity of your current reality so that you can make sure that the direction you're headed is in alignment with where you want to be going. It doesn't make a lot of sense to apply for startups if you really want your family time to increase. It doesn't make a lot of time to apply to startups who are going to not have a healthy work life balance. Sometimes, some do, if you're trying to work on romance and marriage. And so this is once again just a technique to help get you in alignment there. The next thing is defining your four pillars, defining the major aspects of your career. What are you passionate about? What are your strengths? What type of work environment are you looking for? And what compensation are you looking for? This is all about giving you the power back. You are allowed to decide what works for you. You are allowed to come up with the criteria for a job. A lot of people have the scarcity mindset when they transition into tech and they think I'm just going to take whatever job I can get. I want to encourage you, like you're in a wonderful time in your life. You're crafting a career from scratch. You're developing skills from scratch so that you can move into an industry that you're interested in. This is a wonderful time for you to define some of these things that you really want. What is it that you want out of a work environment? Because I can tell you, you're a catch. You are a catch, and any company is going to be lucky to have you And I want you to tell yourself that, and I want you to truly embody that and think about that as you're defining what you would really like and how you want to get there. Because when you start to see the world that way, you'll be much more motivated, and the companies will really feel that confidence as it comes off of you if you really truly believe that. And so the four pillars is a way to define that, to see what your passions are, to see what your strengths are, see that work environment, and take a look at that compensation. Choose your jobs. We like to work backwards because we can't guess what the market currently wants. It's constantly changing in technology. It's a very dynamic field. It's a very dynamic space to exist in. So the best thing you can do to figure out what skills you need to learn is to go look at the job description and learn the skills that it lists there. And not just any job description. I want you to choose the company you want to work for. Choose 3 to 5 companies you would just love to work for, find the description, and that's a great starting point. That's a great way to see, okay, they want their backend developers to know Java, AWS, they want to do DevOps. And so you can just really kind of learn some lingo, get comfortable with what they're looking for, figure out what skills need to be learned, and kind of plan your learning journey that way. And so always think, start with the job description and work backwards instead of trying to guess, because everyone's going to have a different opinion. Even boot camps, even the boot camps who have criteria that they teach, they don't know what language is going to be in demand a year from now. They don't know how technology is going to shift and change. When I was in college, cybersecurity wasn't even really a big thing at that point. DevOps really didn't exist because AWS wasn't a big thing. Everything was on prem. And so things change. And so the best thing you can do is look at these descriptions, get a really clear idea about what the skill set is, and take a really honest look at what your current skill set is. Don't listen to the boot camps or don't listen to people who are currently in tech. Do the research for yourself because every company is going to have different requirements. And some languages are going to be more popular than others. And so this is a great way to kind of get started. Once you have those jobs, drop them into buckets. Take those jobs from these 3 to 5 ideal companies, the 1 to 3 job titles. Is this my dream job? What would I do to have this job? Or maybe this is just plan B. I don't really want this, but I could do it. I could get into tech quicker this way because of the skills and the overlap in my current position. So you drop them into buckets. Then you perform a SWOT analysis on them. You take those job descriptions, you have the descriptions from the job description, you know what they're looking for, and now you need to go through and say, okay, I've got this skill, I've got this skill, I don't have this skill, I don't have this skill, I kind of have this skill. So, it's just a way of kind of going through and deciding how far are you from that position. And then once you know that, okay, this job requires Java, I have no idea how to program in Java, then you can start talking to people, growing your network, finding people on LinkedIn who are Java developers and ask them, hey, how long did it take you to actually learn Java? Then you can actually start setting realistic goals for yourself. That's the whole point of this webinar is so you don't feel overwhelmed. Typically, people feel overwhelmed when they've set unrealistic goals for themselves. And it's that goal that just keeps spinning in their head and it doesn't allow them to move forward because they keep telling themselves, I need to get a job in tech. Okay, how? How do you do that? How do you do that? That's not a great goal to have. You need tasks, you need actionable items, you need things that you can measure. You need things that are time bound where you can give dates on when you're going to have it completed by. And so these are all different ways that you can really gain that clarity, figure out with the SWOT analysis where the skill gaps are, and then go talk to credible sources to figure out how long it might take you to learn those things. Then come up with your plan. After you do that, you find all the skills you don't know, you talk to enough people who have those skills and kind of give you an idea of how long it'll take you. And even that'll be variable because some people learn more quickly than others. Then you can say, okay, realistically, it's going to take me 7 months to do this. And that value and that goal is based on actual data. And that's what's going to help you succeed here is setting realistic goals, setting smarter goals. I talk about setting smarter goals all the time in my coaching practice. Smarter goals are, it's an acronym. Smarter stands for specific. Is the goal specific enough? Is there clarity around it? M is for measurable. Can you measure it? How do you know when it's done? A stands for actionable and achievable. Is this something that you can actually achieve? Do you have a sense of this is actually something that I can do and I can achieve? The R stands for realistic. Does this make sense? Have people done this in the past? Is this something that's based on reality? The T is time bound. Is this goal bounded by time? Have I set a completion date? The E is for exciting. Excuse me. Exciting. Is this something that you're excited about doing? Are you passionate for it? Is this goal something that gets you motivated and super excited? And then the last one is R for is this bound in? I'm so sorry. It's not reality. Uh, it's not realistic. I have to double check that 1 second because it's really important. That one's almost um, one of the better ones there. That last R. The last R stands for relevant. So is this goal relevant? Does it make sense? And this one's so important in tech because a lot of times you'll find people who are working on front end skills when they actually want to be a back end developer. Or maybe you have someone who's enrolled in a tech boot camp learning how to be a full stack developer when actually they want to work in program management or project management. And so is the goal that you've set actually relevant? Or are the actions you're taking actually relevant to what you're doing? Thank you, Janica. I totally had a moment there on that one. But yeah, is it relevant? And so another exercise in alignment to this is I like to talk about imagine imagine there was an entity. It can be a spiritual entity or a ghost or an alien or something. And the idea is that this entity cannot speak to you. All it can do is follow you. You can't see it. All it can do is follow you based on your actions throughout the day. It has to tell what you value. So it can't speak, it can only observe. Based on your action, what do you value? And think about that. Because a lot of people's goals and the things that they're doing on a daily basis, if that entity were to report that back, you might say, wow, actually, what I'm hearing this entity say based on the actual actions I'm taking is nowhere near in alignment with what I actually want to achieve and what I want to accomplish. And so take a hard look at the way you're spending your time. If you want to transition into tech and you're nervous, start working through some of this stuff. Start taking time out of your day to become a technologist, to become someone who transitions into tech. And think about that exercise of it's an entity. All they can do is observe you. When they go back to the mothership and they report on what is important to you, what are they going to say? What are they going to say that you value? What are they going to say? What are they going to say that you value at that point? And so the SWOT analysis will kind of get you thinking. It'll allow you to get some clarity, help you define those smarter goals, and really help you out there. And then the last one, once again, was to identify that transition difficulty. Once you've got the jobs and you have the clarity around it, you can think about dropping those into these different buckets on the fringe map and have a lot of insight into how long it'll take you. So that's it. That is all about defining your why. If you notice, we weren't in the weeds. We weren't talking about how to program We weren't talking about which certifications you need. We weren't talking about boot camps that you need to enroll in. This is a higher level than that. This is thinking about the overall picture, the high level. This is giving you clarity on why you're doing it, not what you need to do. This is the why. Because once you get your why correct, once you know without a doubt you need to be heading in this direction, and once you've set goals around that, smarter goals so that you can accomplish it, well informed goals that are based on relevant, realistic data, then you can find that momentum to move forward. Then it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And so, if you've enjoyed this, once again, if this might be something that you would want a coach to help you work through, you can email me at mindfulbitcoaching@gmail.com. You can also find me in the Transitioning into Tech Facebook group. And also, you can find me on LinkedIn. So I hope you guys have enjoyed it. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing this with you. This is the very first package that I do give as a coach, defining your why. The second thing is overcoming imposter syndrome. And the third thing is creating an online presence. These are the three building blocks that I really am passionate about, that I really coach on, that I really think are crucial in transitioning into tech. And you need to do them all, and they all need to be done in a certain order. You need to have your why done first so that you know where you're going. As you begin that journey, you're going to be facing imposter syndrome along the way. It's going to happen. Um, so you need to learn how to overcome that so you don't feel demotivated and stop the journey midway through. And then the third one is creating that online presence that builds your tech credibility so that hiring managers and recruiters see you as a credible tech source and are willing to take a chance giving you that initial phone screen or scheduling that tech interview with you. So does anyone have any questions or thoughts before we close out today's webinar? All righty, everybody. I will have a recording of this that I will post into the Transitioning into Tech Facebook group, as well as to YouTube, so that you can reference this in the future. Also, the recording will be available right here on this page moving forward. Feel free to share it. And I look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.